in here to College Basketball Review Studio. I'm Matt Majensky. That is Dan Siegel. That's Ariel Punerman. And guys, as you see below on that banner, we have reached the Sweet 16 of March Madness. We are done with the round of 64, and we're done with the round of 32. 16 teams remain just like that. Make sure to subscribe here as well, as we have been podcasting all March Madness, and we're getting going as, teams are eliminated. Always crazy, guys. I do want to point out how first four gets played, and you're ready for all the madness. And then it feels like Thursday and Friday are done, and you're like, I mean, literally half the field's gone, but it just feels like in an instance, it's just like you have games all day long to all of a sudden not many teams left. And at this point, it is the most worthy teams left in the Sweet 16. Guys, we want to get into a bunch of fun topics today, and we will start with our main overall thought. So as always, Ariel, will go to you first. It's our first weekend superlatives. What's your overall thought of the tournament so far?
Yeah. So many thoughts so far. It's been a lot of fun. I've had a great time. Every day's been delivering hits. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm just really impressed with the Big Ten. I know a big theme every March Madness is, can they finally win it? They haven't won since 2000, and now they have a 6-16 chance to do so. You got Michigan State. You got the two teams playing each other in Nebraska and Iowa. You have, who are the other ones? You got Illinois, and then of course you have, I think that's it. I think I covered all of them. But, really impressive so far. The only losses they've had are UCLA in the second round and Ohio State in the first round, which were both lower seeds, and they were kind of expected. So really impressive that, the top seeds have managed to avoid upsets, and two, they all look really strong right now. And we'll talk about some of them later. But I'm really impressed with the Big Ten and how they performed in March.
Yeah, 100%. Dan, what's your main overall thought of the first weekend?
Yeah, kind of the thought that everyone's been talking about. We got to talk about the whole debate between whether upsets are going to happen, whether chalk's going to happen. And there's, of course, this past year, it was the first time for a 2-year stretch that 13 seeds or worse all did not win. So 13 seeds or worse went 0-16 this year. They went 0-16 last year. So they are 0-32 in the last 2 years as the first 2-year stretch consecutively where that's happened. Now there's one school of thought where it's like, NIL has completely ruined this entire dynamic of March Madness, and we're never going to see an upset again. And then there's this other, probably more logical school of thought where it's like, it's just random and we just happen to have 2 boring years. I mean, the truth probably falls somewhere in between, where I believe that, of course, it's likely that NIL has made the top of the talent, the cream of the crop, rise closer to the top. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I think I don't need a 15-2 every year because it makes it more special when it does happen. And of course, we had a couple of almost upsets. Of course, Siena, the 16 seed, almost beat Duke. Another ACC team, Virginia, was given a scare. Kansas was given a mild backdoor scare. There was some stuff happening, and of course they didn't come into fruition. But I'm not in on the sentiment that March Madness is completely ruined by NIL, because as you'll talk about right now, the second round set up for some incredible matchups.
Yeah, and that's really my overarching thought. My main overall thought of this tournament so far is that the Cinderella really is not dead. I don't care what anyone has to say. Every tournament is different, which means every tournament you're not going to have a UMBC. I agree with you, Dan. I think that it's almost too much, when you have all the upsets, right? UMBC beat Virginia, and 2 years later, all of a sudden, Fairleigh Dickinson is taking down Purdue, 2-3 years after that. So to me, it's like, okay, you waited so long to have that 16/1. You don't really want to see that every year. It makes it less special. So I'd be cool with a 16 not beating a 1 for another 10, 15 years. So then when it obviously does happen again, it's like, wow, that is a special moment. I feel the same way about 15s/2s. We had a stretch where it felt like every year there was a 15/2. But this year, not the case. You mentioned it there, Siena. I mean, they didn't win, but that was one of the craziest games that we could have seen, because we're talking about the number 1 overall seed in Duke. We're talking about Cameron Boozer, who might be the first pick in the draft, going to be one of the top picks regardless of where he goes. And we're talking about a Siena team that only played 5 players. And I'll leave that for another conversation. Let's just say this. It was a 13-point game when Siena missed back-to-back dunks with about 17 or 18 minutes left. If one of those would have dropped, they would have had momentum up 15. Of course, they missed. Duke takes it down in transition, kind of able to loosen up a bit. They get it down to 11, and I think that was kind of the turning point in the game. But Siena came out of the second half ready to go up 17, 18, 19, 20 points. They looked like they were going to try and literally put the game away against this Duke team. You saw it in other instances as well. I'll talk about it when we look at our most notable games. Like, the Cinderella, in my eyes, it's a true Cinderella if a team reaches the Sweet 16 or further, if they were a mid-major team. So if a 12 seed or worse, that's a mid-major, goes multiple rounds, that's a true Cinderella. But I'm not going to sit here and say the Cinderella's dead just because that didn't happen. I think we saw multiple mid-major teams that aren't supposed to win take teams to the brink. We saw High Point win a game, almost advance to the Sweet 16. It might not be a Sweet 16 with some random team that you've never heard of in it, but I'm not going to say, hey, the Cinderella's dead. I think they still have chances to win games. And with that, let's go to the most notable game of the first weekend. Ariel, which one are you still thinking about?
I want to start by saying I forgot Purdue in my last segment, so apologize to them and the fans. And also congrats to Braden Smith on breaking the assist record. I feel like we have to mention that. Back to the question you just asked. There's a bunch of notable games, but I'm going to go with Kansas against St. John's. Probably the ugliest game of the tournament. I mean, that first half was just a nightmare to watch. St. John's just breaking threes, Kansas turning the ball over. Neither team really being able to produce really good offense. Defense was good, but then second half looked like St. John's pretty much pulled away. Kansas comes all the way back. They tie with about 13 seconds left. They play the foul game to kind of force St. John's to take a shot they might necessarily not want to take, and that all ends with a buzzer beater. Absolutely heartbreaking moment for Kansas fans, a joyous moment for St. John's fans. They're back in the Sweet 16. Really great all-around game, even though it was ugly, and ended up with an awesome moment at the end and a clash between two of the best coaches to ever do it as well. So really awesome, and also might be Coach Self's last game. So really sad if that's the way it goes out, but this could be something we talk about a couple years from now if that is the decision he makes. So a lot of factors in that one, and I think that's what really made it special.
Dan, who you got here?
I got to go to the round of 64. We got to go backwards a little bit. Let's talk about Santa Clara and Kentucky. This was not one of the most anticipated first-round games, but this was an incredible 7 versus 10. Just this sequence. Oh, the shot making in this game in general was very good, back and forth. But I think this last sequence of regulation just deserves discussion. So it is a 70-68 game, Kentucky down 2. Otega Owe makes a tough layup with 9-ish seconds, and then Santa Clara pushes it down the court. Alan Graves, highly touted NBA prospect, makes a deep 3 to take a 3-point lead with 2 seconds left. So everyone's thinking the game is over. I think the Santa Clara coach, Herb Sendick, was like actually trying to call a timeout. Refs didn't see it. Crowd was so loud. That was a theme of the weekend as well. And Kentucky, of course, pushes the ball up the court after the made 3. Otega Owe takes essentially a half court, just heave, banks it in, tie game at 73. Kentucky wins in overtime. Just absolutely incredible stuff. That's going to be that sequence of events that I'm going to remember 10, 15 years from now. Of course, I will admit, guys, I did not see that happen live. So I was locked into my Virginia Cavaliers. The reason I found out about it was when I was locked in with UVA with the sound on. I heard through the TV the crowd like reacting to seeing that play on the billboard just like in a random moment during the game with like 14 minutes left in the first half. And I'm like, all right, I got to check this out. And I regret it, but yeah, that little sequence did not disappoint. And a nice win for Kentucky, but of course they went out pretty sad in the second round.
Yeah, those were great games. I'll be honest, like I was in Tampa for games. I always hang out with my friends every first weekend of March Madness. For the Kansas St. John's game, it lined up perfectly on my flight home, so I was kind of able to watch the entire game on the flight home. I think the last couple minutes were once I landed, and fiance picked me up and was like, "Hey, I just got to watch like this last minute. Like, please, I'm excited to see you, but just let me finish up the St. John's Kansas game." Dan, for your game as well, I was sitting with my buddies like in an outdoor sports bar in Tampa, and it's like, what's better than this? 85-degree weather, having a nice drink or two, having some fun with the friends, watching some Santa Clara, Kentucky basketball. Like, just peak life right there. For my most notable game, it is Arkansas and High Point. This was a game I was locked into. I was excited about it beforehand. I had Wisconsin going to the Sweet 16, but who cares if your bracket gets busted? If it's a fun team that you want to see win, hard to root against High Point. Also, like, shout out to Chase Johnston, because, like, as a Christian as well, his story about why he wears the number 99, I think is just such a cool story. Just talking about, like, hey, like, God leaves the 99 for the 1, and he's, like, promoting that on Barstool. Just awesome stuff out of him. But this game, guys, 94-88, Arkansas wins. Did it go down to the final shot? No, but it just felt like High Point was always there ready to win this game. You got Darius Acuff with 36 points. Actually kind of impressed that High Point held him to 50% shooting from the field. Like I figured Acuff might go for 50 in this game. I thought High Point did a really good job against him. I just have to shout out the Panthers, though, because I'll be honest, I don't even think they played close to their best game possible. Rob Martin was outstanding. 30 points, pretty much matched Acuff shot for shot, just going to the bucket. Fastest guy in college basketball. Cameron Fletcher, 25 points off the bench. He was as advertised, and you got Terry Anderson scoring 15. The only other guy on High Point to make more than one field goal was Chase Johnston, who made 3 shots. Unfortunately, he is like virtually like impossible to put out there on defense. But guys, here's the thing. Chase Johnston played 31 minutes and scored 9 points, and he was out there. And the problem is that people that begin watching college basketball in March Madness probably believe that Chase Johnston is like one of the key players for High Point during the entire season. Don't get me wrong. He's made over 400 threes in his career. He had the moment against Wisconsin, but this is a guy that averages 13 minutes per game. So for him to have to play 31 against Arkansas on this stage just kind of shows that the guys like Braden Hausen, Owen Aquino just did not have their best stuff. And imagine if their shots were falling, I think High Point could have won this game. They really could be playing in the Sweet 16. So I just want to shout out that game. That was just fun to watch as a guy who loves offensive basketball. All right, let's move on, guys, to the top moment. These were obviously all good moments, but like this is the moment we're looking at. Not just the game, but the moment that we remember. So, Ario, what do you got here?
Yeah, it's the High Point team that you just mentioned, but the other game, the round of 64 game against Wisconsin, I mean that could have a huge argument for game of the whole tournament. Just how it went back and forth, and you got Boyd making tough shots, you got Chase Johnston making threes that are insane, but it's the 2 that he made at the end, a fast break layup. His first 2-point make of the entire season comes at the most clutch time, the one that gives them their first win. I don't think it's their first win in tournament history. It might be, but if it isn't, it's their first in a while. And the only true one-bid league, I know Utah State was technically a one-bid league, but a traditional one-bid league to make that first-round upset comes from that High Point team. In that big moment by Chase Johnston, he made a couple insane other threes, but I think him just catching that ball in stride, going up for the layup, it almost seemed like he didn't know what to do, but he made that little layup, and that's what got them the win. I think that's the top moment of the tournament so far.
Dan, what do you got here? What's your top moment that you've got on replay?
Yeah, we're going to round of 32. This one is actually like, it's been talked about so much, and it was an almost moment, but I feel like it was so close that you guys know what I'm talking about. The Vanderbilt-Nebraska game, Braden Frager for Nebraska takes the go-ahead layup with 2 seconds left. I think there's like 1 point something on the clock. 74-72, no timeouts for Vanderbilt. Figures that's the game. And what happens? Well, shot is just chucked up. Tyler Tanner from like 50 feet. It goes into the hoop, banks in via Oteo Owe, like the same way, and then just trickles out. You have to just I can't even describe it. Like you have to see the video. You have to see basically the freeze frame of the shot that, I mean, that would have been,
it was in.
Yeah. I'm like, I was stunned. Like I just stood there. I sat there in my seat for like 5 minutes after. You ever have those games where you're just sitting there for like 5 minutes after, you just have like no words? That was one of those games.
When Syracuse beat Virginia in the Elite Eight.
I think we both had that reaction for complete opposite reasons. But yes.
Quickly, are you guys more pro take the half-court shot with 2 seconds left, or chuck the ball down court and try to get a closer shot?
Take the half-court shot.
I'm generally, I don't know, with 1 second. I think like the 1 second versus 3 seconds is a big difference, because I've seen the play before where it's like you throw it to the guy at the top of the, like the big man at the top of the key. He like drops it for a shooter, and then the shooter like takes like a decent look from 3. That's a good, but you can't do that all in 1 second. So that was the best. That was the best play, and it was in, then it wasn't.
I think the problem is like I was actually covering a high school game for my high school practice for my job in Rochester, for sports anchoring, and there's a team in our area that went on to state finals and whatnot, state Final Four, and they're practicing an out of bounds play at the end, like this situation. And I know colleges are doing this, but I mean it was like to a T for a high school to be doing that. I was very impressed. I just think colleges sometimes maybe don't practice it enough, right? Like I think that this is stuff you have to put in time for. If you're going to trust a player to throw it down the court, this is not football. They're not throwing passes like this all the time. Like you have to master that. I wonder if teams do master that enough. And I'm curious. It'd be a good poll. Maybe this is something I'll work on in the offseason. And I don't know if coaches want to give away their game plan, but I wonder if some would be willing to say, hey, how much of practice time per day, per week is actually devoted to throwing the ball down court for a last second inbound? Because I would guess it's next to none, even at that level.
I think it's more than you think. I think the problem is the other team is practicing the other team throwing the ball half court and so that kind of counteracts it.
That's fair too.
It's an unlikely play no matter what. It's low percentage.
Yeah,
that's what makes it special when it goes in or goes almost in from 50 feet and then doesn't. But yeah,
100%. Regardless, my top moment: Iowa and Florida. Again, funny. I mentioned I was in Tampa. I was in Tampa for the first round of games, so I caught the Iowa-Clemson just absolute snooze fest, and I caught the Florida Prairie View A&M game, which, credit to Prairie View, was like 15-15 at one point, and everyone was kind of like, are they about to do something? And then Florida went on like a 100-1 run, and yeah, I left at halftime, needless to say. Was excited to get back and watch some actual games on my television. Yeah, Iowa and Florida, guys, that was just, what a game that was. I was just watching that game just in awe. Like this is what March Madness is about. Alvaro Folgueras just with the shot to be able to just can Florida at the end. Look, you're the first team to beat the 1 seed in this tournament. You're a team in Iowa that no one really looks at as a team that could maybe beat Florida. We talk about slowing the tempo down, but I don't think we talked about them being able to beat this Florida team. Maybe take them out of their game from time to time, but not for a full 40 minutes, come out on top. Did you guys catch it too when Folgueras like pointed up? I thought he was pointed up at the score. I was like, wow, like this, there's 2 seconds left, but apparently he's, I think, pointing up for like someone who passed away. Like it was definitely an interesting story. I don't know if I have the right thing on there, but when I saw it at first, I'm like, wow, like calling your shot. Hey, regardless, still just a very cool moment for him to be able to hit that shot and kind of soak in that moment at Florida, by the way, because I'm not going to mince around it. Like we talk about teams being able to play near where their school is, like total home game for Florida, total home game, absolutely stunned. And, I guess I'll finish on this, like great play for Iowa, but Todd Golden after the game saying they were looking to foul, which that's how you know Todd Golden is an offensive coach, when their team is up 2 and they were okay with Iowa tying it potentially at the free throw line to try and win the game. Like I understand it, but like have some defense there, man. Like 2 seconds left.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of like late game execution and like, do I foul up 3? Do I do this? Do I like, it comes down to, do I extend the game? Do I play it out? Like it comes down to, do I trust my offense or my defense more? I feel like if you're Florida, you just got to trust yourself. Especially in a game like that. Like I was not like jacking up 3s and hitting them. That's not what they are. And Bennett Sturts was like 0 for some crazy amount from 3.
0 for 9.
Yeah. I don't know. 1% could have changed every narrative, but doesn't matter.
Yeah, definitely an interesting coaching decision if that's really what they were going for, which I believe them. I mean, it kind of looked, when you look at the replay, it looked like they just got totally lost. But credit to Iowa, and credit to Iowa for making the stand at the end too, because obviously Florida had a chance to win that game. But Xavier Lee, not sure what he was really doing. Maybe I don't even know if he was counting in his head correctly. Like it looked like he thought they had 3 more seconds left, to be honest.
They should have done the play I was just talking about where you throw down court, but to Olivier Ryu. Catches it and just dunks it.
Honestly,
Not the worst idea, right?
it's not the worst idea. You got a 7'9" guy for a reason. You got to be able to use him.
There's no way they could stop it, so you might as well try it, right?
It's not a bad play. I think Florida might give you a call soon, Ariel. I like the play there. All right, let's move on to the most concerning losing team, guys. We talk about the winners, we talk about the moments. What's one team that lost in the round of 64 or round of 32 that you're sitting here saying, not sure what it's looking like for the near future for them, Ariel?
It's gonna be Kansas. I talked about the game itself, but now that's another year without a second weekend appearance. Make that one second weekend appearance in the last 7 tournaments. Now there's a huge asterisk with that. The 1 year they did make it to the second weekend, they won the championship, and also the COVID year, they were probably the best team going into the tournament. So that could have been another big asterisk. But what happened for a program like Kansas with the success and the history they have, only making one second weekend in the last 7 years, that's a problem. Now you have heavy rumors of Bill Self retiring, which we'll probably find out in the next week, maybe even earlier than that, which is obviously going to set up a huge domino effect. And then even if he doesn't retire, where do they go from here? You look at the retaining talent. You got Darren Peterson. He's gone for sure. Trey White's going to graduate. Melvin Council's going to graduate. It looks like Floyd Badinga is either going to go to the draft, transfer, maybe he comes back. And then who are you left with? You have Bryson Tiller. You have Cole Rosario. You have some talented freshmen coming in, but you don't have that continuation like in past years with DeJuan Harrison, KJ Adams, or even getting Flory back this year, knowing you have Darren Peterson. And then obviously all those great teams before that. So you have to trust Kansas will land on their feet. But for a program with that amount of success, and this comes from a Kansas alumni and a passionate fan, you have to wonder what's next and how can they get back to those ways where every year they're viewed as a championship team and they're actually competing for a national championship instead of just being complacent with the round of 32 finish every year.
Yeah, 100% there, Ariel. Dan, what do you have here?
Well, everything you just said, about 90% of what you just said, applies to the team I'm going to talk about, and that is the North Carolina Tar Heels, who also, they lost in the round of 64. They lost to VCU in overtime, and it's the same thing. This is a once proud program that is just underwhelming, right? So I put out this stat that I think it is very telling. So you look back at Roy Williams and I think he had like 18 to 20 years as a North Carolina Tar Heel. And aside from the COVID year, which they were terrible, they missed the second weekend twice in those 18 to 20 years, whatever it was. And the second time he missed a second weekend, he's like, this is such a catastrophe. This is such a disaster. I need to step down. Well, Hubert Davis has already missed it 3 times in 5 years. So besides that crazy run to the national championship where they weren't even that good, like they were an 8 seed and they just kind of caught lightning in a bottle and finally decided to stop underperforming. And even in that game, they blew like a 15, 20-point lead to your Kansas Jayhawks. Sounds familiar, right? Because that happened in this VCU game. That's happened like 50 times in Hubert Davis era. It's when you hire the successor, you hire the famous alum. It's such a risk because you don't want to burn bridges with that guy, but you're also like, you're not doing what is best in order to retain the program, in order to hold the program to a high standard. And of course, as we stand tonight, it's 9:12 Pacific time here on March 23rd, Monday. Like we still don't know what the future of Hubert did. We don't know if he's going to stay. I'm leaning like 80-20. He gets fired, to be honest, but like we don't know yet. And I mean, if he gets fired and they make a home run hire, then great for them. But there's still a non-zero chance that they're rolling with Hubert Davis next year, and they shouldn't have even been rolling with him for this long. So,
yeah, no, it's definitely tough times ahead for North Carolina, guys. I'm gonna go with BYU here, and it's just to this point, like BYU, we know has a good standing with NIL money. They're able to land AJ DeBonsa, clearly one of the best players in the country. And I know everything that happened to Richie Saunders, the injury, like BYU definitely was kind of going into the NCAA tournament already not in the best spot. But let's just look at the facts here. Like they're playing a team that just had to play a couple days ago in the first four. We can talk about Texas, obviously, starting to play some good basketball. Sometimes teams catch fire when they get in the first four, right? They get a game under their belt, they get that NCAA tournament win. They're already playing a little bit looser, you name it. But still, at this point in time, you're looking at a BYU team that's more rested. They're the better seed. They've got the best player on the court. And I'm starting to think okay, if BYU can't do this year and even get out of the round of 64, what's it going to look like in the future? Like when they don't have an AJ DeBonsa, regardless of Richie Saunders' injury. Because you look at, obviously other teams out there and Tennessee, they're 6 seed. They had to play an 11 seed. They had to play an 11 seed Miami, Ohio. And they got rid of that team 10 minutes into the game. And obviously you can say Texas, Miami, Ohio, maybe not the same type of teams, whatever. But we all saw what Miami, Ohio did to SMU. We all saw the confidence they were playing with there. Tennessee had a game plan, and they're ready to take them down. And I don't think any of us are going to sit here and say, hey, BYU is much worse of a team without Richie Saunders than Tennessee. I think that BYU, even without Richie Saunders, is pretty close to Tennessee. And we look at what Texas Tech did in game one. I know they got blown out by Alabama, but they didn't really mess around with Akron. It was close at times, but Texas Tech, even without JT Toppin, was able to win that game. So I think there's some excuses BYU might use, and maybe partially, okay, fine, you were without Richie Saunders, and you were without him for a few weeks, so you should have maybe been able to grow from it. Yeah, I'm just very disappointed in what the Cougars had in the NCAA tournament. Felt like they were always kind of trailing, felt like they always just, they never really had this game under control. And we saw Texas take advantage of it, and obviously, BYU is home in the round of 64. They just can't seem to really get over the top. Guys, one more to look at, and that is our most impressive or maybe a Sweet 16 team that maybe we weren't totally high on coming into the NCAA tournament, but now we're sitting here saying, hey, they are a very good team to watch out for. Ariel, who do you have here?
Look, I'll start by saying I've been impressed with every team that made the Sweet 16. There hasn't been any teams that kind of crawled in, and the teams that like the lower seeds, they've obviously looked good, and even the higher seeds have been pretty dominant. None of them have really underperformed what we thought they would, but I'll go Houston. Just someone who watches a lot of the Big 12. We saw towards the end of the season, they lost those 3 games in a row. And then even the games after against Baylor and Oklahoma State, they kind of let them hang around a little bit too comfortably. And then even the BYU game in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, BYU really hung with them. And we saw that they couldn't even hang with Texas. They destroyed Kansas, and then obviously they lost to Arizona, which isn't a bad loss. But this team didn't look like a championship level threat just heading into the tournament, in my opinion. And while Idaho and Texas A&M aren't exactly Goliaths by any means, the way they beat them was really convincing. Both of them 31-point wins. Sanak really took it to another level. He had 18 rebounds against Idaho, and then 17 and 9 against A&M. The guards are still playing well. You can tell this means a lot to Emmanuel Sharp after the way last tournament ended with him kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Like he kind of just like passed up the last shot and just kind of dribbled around while there was nothing he could do about it. So you can tell it's personal. And what I think is most impressive is they aren't playing with their food. They're just dominating from tip, going out to big leads, not letting the other team get back, and just looking like the better team, which I think a lot of other teams kind of pulled away a lot in the second half. This hasn't been a problem for Houston. So obviously going from A&M and Idaho to Illinois is going to be a huge jump for them, and that'll really determine how good and how far they can go. The game is in Houston, which is going to be a huge advantage, but I think that this is a team that can win a championship again after not really being that confident about that heading into the tournament.
Yeah. And a lot of the things that you just said about your most impressive Sweet 16 team, you basically say the same thing about my team. I'm going to talk about Alabama, but also with Alabama, like we didn't go in like expecting them to be as like good as they've been, right? I mean, Hofstra, right? Pretty frisky team, like a team we thought Alabama would most likely beat, but we didn't think they would put up 90 points and hold Cruz Davis to, well, I think like 14 on a very inefficient shooting night. That was just super impressive. And then they go out there and they play a Texas Tech team that, of course, like if you're Texas Tech, it's you winning one game is probably a victory against a pretty decent Akron team just because you didn't have JT Toppin and, relying on Christian Anderson and his amazing play only took you so long. But again, Alabama has a game plan to shut down and oppose a star opposing guard. And that is just really impressive. The X factor between good and great Alabama teams has 100% been their defense. And they go out there, they do their normal thing, right? They splash a million threes and they score a bunch of points and play fast. But they also played great defense. And of course, the elephant in the room of Aiden Holloway with the whole situation. We don't have to talk about that, but he was not playing in either of these first two games. I don't know what the situation is. Do we know anything about that? As far
Not
as
looking good.
second weekend implications? No.
I don't think he's going to be playing for this tournament. Let's put it that way.
So the fact that they're doing that without him, I was almost ready to change my pick to Hofstra after finding that out. I'm glad I didn't, but man, 2 20-plus point wins. Very impressive.
Well, I did have Hofstra in the Sweet 16, so I was not happy that Alabama was able to turn it on. I feel like every year I pick a 12 and a 13 in the same region where I'm like, oh, I don't really like that 5 seed, don't like that 4 seed. Maybe some madness happens here, and I did it there. I had Hofstra over Akron moving on to the Sweet 16, and of course, none of that happened. And Ariel, to your point as well, I'm glad you see Houston as a national championship contender because I have Houston in my bracket. Only bracket I picked, only one this year. And I got the Cougars winning it all. Guys, for my pick here, I was actually going to go with Illinois, and then I was like, you know what? They beat Penn, they beat VCU. I think Illinois has been playing very dominant this tournament, but I'm going to go to a team that I think has proven a lot more, and that's Iowa State. Because for Iowa State to be sitting here in the Sweet 16 and for them to win the way that they did over Kentucky, by the way, a Kentucky team we definitely could have mentioned as a concerning losing team. Kind of surprised none of us went with the Wildcats there. But for Iowa State, they were down at first. They were down 10, 12 points to start this game. And without Joshua Jefferson to go on that run in the locker room saying afterwards that I forget what player said it, but that they felt that Kentucky was just going to give in once they got down by a bunch. And you kind of felt that. Iowa State just got up by a bunch. And Cyclones in the Sweet 16 without their star Joshua Jefferson. He might be ready to go. Sweet 16, Elite 8. Well, we'll see. So Joshua Jefferson, if he's back, he's going to be back with a group that is very confident because when you're able to win a game like that in March Madness without your star and you're able to beat Kentucky the way that you did, and then you get Joshua Jefferson back, I think we're in store for an all-timer from Iowa State as long as Jefferson is able to go. I think that this team is going to be locked in and ready to go. And I'm just going to say this. I do a big bracket pool with my friends every year, friends, family, people that I don't even know. It's friends of friends of friends of friends. And my mom picked Iowa State to win it all. And right now I'm like, maybe she is on to something. Not that she was on to anything because pretty sure she only picked them because they lived in Iowa for a few years. But surprised she didn't pick the Hawkeyes over the Gators. That says it. That does it for our superlatives. But guys, we're doing some more stuff on college basketball review here during our podcast. We got some fun games we want to play. Some news today as we record. Technically it's Tuesday, but today – Monday, Greg McDermott announcing his retirement at the end of the year as head coach of Creighton. So, guys, we're going to be playing something called I call it, I don't even know what I call it, but it's just name these 10, and you get 3 strikes. If you get 3 strikes, you're out. Dan and Ariel, you're going to be playing. I'll give Ariel a guess. I'll give Dan a guess. So we'll go back and forth. Here's the category we're going to be playing. And, of course, I'm doing this because of Greg McDermott. I promise this will not be Big East related as the season goes on. But Greg McDermott, one of the better coaches in Big East history without a doubt. So I'm going to have you guys guess the top 10 coaches on the Big East wins list. And for clarification here, this is a coach's record during games when they coached a Big East team. So I'm going to give you an example here, someone that I don't think you were going to guess anyways, but Rick Barnes was once the coach of Providence for 6 seasons, and his record with Providence was 108-76. So this is counting all games at the school. So it's not saying, hey, Big East record, like, hey, you went 15-5. It's no. If he went 20-10 with Providence, that's 20 wins right there. So does that make sense to you guys? This is overall record at their Big East school. So once Rick Barnes went away, none of that counts.
Is this current Big East teams?
This is all Big East teams. So
when they were in the Big East.
Yep, we're looking at current. We're looking at non. This is just historic Big East wins list for coaches. So you're going to have some guys on here that you might have to think about, and you're going to have some current
the
guys
old Big
as well.
East. I gotta think. Yeah.
Last thing I'll help with is I'm not telling you whether or not Greg McDermott is or is not on this list. He is the reason we're going with this. So top 10.
All right.
Mario, you got the first guess.
Man, this is going to be tough. I'll go with the safe pick here and start with Jay Wright.
Jay Wright is correct. That is number 3 on the all-time Big East wins list. He obviously is not coaching anymore, but 520 wins with Villanova. Damn.
Yeah, I just saw a stat where he's like one of the only coaches to go to a Sweet 16 like 5 different decades, and besides Barnes and Jim Boeheim.
Jim Boeheim is number 1 on this list with 846 wins as a coach.
Sorry, besides Pitino. Pitino was the coach which I might have.
Yeah, that was going to be my first pick until you mentioned that. This might be a weird one, and I'm trying to remember how many wins he got, but Jamie Dixon, was he at Pitt? Does he make the list?
That is going to be strike number 1.
Ooh.
And Ariel, Jamie Dixon, 11th.
Oh,
Of course.
Oh my God, that's
16
crazy.
wins out of a tie for 10 with an unnamed coach.
Yeah.
So you guys still have 1 strike, but 3 strikes and you're out. You've only got 2 so far. So Dan, you've got Jim Boeheim, you've got Jay Wright. Who is your next guess?
Yeah, no, this is my second guess. I'm gonna go. I gotta go the St. John's Lou Carnesecca.
Lou Carnesecca is number 6 on this list.
Nice.
It's a very good poll. We had 294 wins as a Big East coach. Ariel, you're up next.
I'll go to Georgetown here. Is John Thompson on the list?
John Thompson is number 4, 466. Of course, the longtime coach at Georgetown from 1980 to 1999. Dan.
I already said his name out loud. I'm surprised Ariel didn't guess him, but Pitino.
Pitino, number 5, of course, St. John's, but of course Louisville as well, and Providence, 336 wins. So, again, to catch you guys up now, you've got 5 so far. You've got Boeheim, Wright, Thompson, Pitino, Carnesecca. You need 7 through 10. You also need number 2.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any more. I'll be honest. I need to think of all the old Big East teams. Okay, let's think here. I don't think any DePaul coaches will crack the list. I don't think any other. I'll go McDermott. Screw it.
McDermott, number 9. Greg
All
McDermott,
right.
number 9 in Big East wins all time. 285 with Creighton over a span of 13 years. They've won a lot of games since they got to the Big East. So Dan, we're missing number 2, 7, 8, and 10.
Okay, so bottom end of the list. I know they were in the American, but I got to go recency bias here and go with Hurley. Dan Hurley.
No, that is going to be strike number 2.
Oh.
Dan Hurley, number 17 currently with 161 wins, 6 years and counting. Ariel, you guys don't have any more strikes. It ends the game if you miss it. I want to reiterate, you need number 7, 8, and 10. You also need number 2. You guys really should be getting number 2. I'm just going to be real.
No pressure, right? I'll go with another UConn coach just because it feels like the safest guess. I'll go with Jim Calhoun.
Jim Calhoun is number 2. I did not want to see you guys not get that. Jim Calhoun with 629 wins over the span of 26 years at UConn. Dan, here's where it gets iffy. I'll give one more hint if you want it. If you don't want the hint, I won't give it.
Well, is it fair to give me the hint? Because
You can have it.
Okay.
This is the only hint I'll give. This guy is an active coach.
Okay, that's the only hint. Okay.
Well, one of these guys. One of the remaining 3 is an active coach.
Yeah, I figured. I'm just wondering if he's like active at his school. Okay. Been in the Big East for a while. Oh, I think
I know who it is.
Ed Cooley.
Yep.
Ed Cooley is number
Big East
8.
schools. Yeah.
Ed Cooley, 15 years between Providence and Georgetown, 285 wins. You guys got number 7 and number 10 left. I don't even think this is really a clue, but number 7 technically also has the same number of Big East wins as Ed Cooley with 285. I really don't think that's a clue, but
That is the opposite of a clue.
Ario, I'll be honest. I think you guys are toast, but you might be able to get this if you do some deep thinking.
I got nothing.
If it's not active, I'm toast.
Yeah, I'll go with the mighty Kim English.
That's going to be strike number 3. Number 10 is probably the biggest surprise, guys. It is John Thompson III. So we obviously already got John Thompson, the legendary Georgetown coach. His son, actually number 10, coached Georgetown from 2005 to 2017 and picked up 278 wins. That was a surprise.
I meant both of them when I said John Thompson.
Yeah. And number 7, guys, Mike Bray at Notre Dame. Only 13 years in the Big East, but 285 wins.
He was there forever. Yeah. I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
But and good job, guys. I know you have 3 strikes, but you did get 8 out of 10. Here's some other names that just missed the list. Kevin Willard at 249. You figure if he stays at Villanova, he'll probably get on there. Rolly Massimino, PJ Carlissimo, that's Villanova and Seton Hall. Both were only there for 12 years each, and both somehow at 13th and 14th. And then, of course, we mentioned Dan Hurley at 17th. And then you look at guys like Buzz Williams, Mick Cronin, guys that were there for a little bit, Bob Huggins at West Virginia. Definitely some great coaching names, just didn't have the longevity as far as years in the Big East that these guys did. But honestly, good job, guys. You got 8 out of 10. We'll see if you guys can do better the next time we played this game. That will do it for our recap as we have reached the Sweet 16. Stay tuned for more episodes here on our YouTube. And again, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So for Dan Siegel and Ario Puterman, I'm Matt Baginski saying good night, and we will talk to you next time.